Eoin Higgins, Dara, Kerr, great to be here with you. It's fitting we're talking about media at a tech conference because tech now owns, runs, controls the media, big names, Elon Musk owning X, Twitter. I hate saying X still. It still doesn't feel right. Jeff Bezos owning the Washington Post, recently laying off, a third of the staff. Let's talk first about the increasing tech control of media and to what extent this has meant a shift to the right. These are owners who are openly more conservative. Elon Musk openly campaigned with Donald Trump, gave him a lot of money. Where is this going? Dara, starting with you.
I mean, to me, I find it really shocking to see this huge shift. And it to me, like the time when it began was January 2025, where we saw just this all in and this huge shift in the media rightward. And I would include in that group Barry Weiss taking over CBS. Not that she was a tech person, but she's very close, as you know, doing the Twitter files and whatnot. As someone, a reporter who's kind of in it, and so many of my friends work at the Washington Post, I spent all last week with the Amazon reporter from the Washington Post who was laid off. And just seeing, it's a bit mind-boggling and hard for me to wrap my head around, I think, kind of being in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Eoin.
Yeah, I mean, obviously since January 2025, it's gotten a lot worse, but in my view, these guys started buying up these platforms for a very specific reason, to kind of flood the zone and get their ideological point of view out there. And I think that this kind of comes after their shift to the right, but it also kind of mirrors it in a lot of ways, right? Like, as they continue to invest more in media and into these platforms, they started, Elon Musk is a perfect example, right? This is a guy who you can watch him becoming radicalized by the platform that he bought in real time, going further and further and further to the right. And obviously, I think in my view, bought it for that reason. Bought it because he was going more radicalized and felt that the political, ideological point of view that he wanted to be out there was not getting as much time and air as he wanted to.
Dara, you've been covering the Elon Musk, Sam Altman civil case over OpenAI. Without knowing much about it, when I saw that Elon Musk's argument, correct me if I'm wrong, is he's upset with Sam Altman that they were supposed to do a nonprofit, and Sam Altman ruined that noble vision. And so the idea of Elon Musk being mad that something is straying away from being nonprofit, so he doesn't want to make a profit, it's hard to buy as an outside observer. But you've been covering this case. For those who aren't familiar with it, like, what's the basis of it, and what do you think it says about where we are right now in terms of tech and its control over all of our lives?
Right. Well, that's the legal argument. I don't know if the reality bears that allegation, because what we've seen in the trial come out, so Elon Musk is alleging that Sam Altman basically wooed him in to start this nonprofit and then flipped the script and turned it into a for-profit. But what we've seen in evidence come out in trials that Elon Musk was on board the whole time for it to be a for-profit, and that wasn't the issue. And when he couldn't wrestle control of the company in 2018, he left. And then OpenAI went on to become a wildly successful company, and he didn't like that.
Does Elon have his own AI venture now too?
He does.
Okay, so maybe that's a factor here.
Yeah, that came in too, and that he started that the year before he filed this lawsuit. And that notably is not a nonprofit AI company. Yeah, so I could go on and on. This trial is really fascinating.
Well, have there been any standout moments so far? It's a civil case. I know Elon Musk supporters have been showing up to court to rally in defense of their hero. It's entertaining.
It's been really
entertaining.
Oh, there's just so many. It's totally entertaining. Right now, closing arguments are happening. So the jury is going to start deliberations theoretically this afternoon, and that's going to be really interesting. The judge is just this no-nonsense woman who does not treat the billionaires with any respect that they're used to being treated. And so, she dresses them down. She dresses down the lawyers at all points. On Cinco de Mayo, she's part Mexican. She said she gave the history to the courtroom of Cinco de Mayo and how it's not actually Mexican Independence Day, and brought tamales. And she's from Texas, and she's like, Texan tamales are better. She wanted, it's just, there's all sorts of fun elements to it. There's Musk's the mother of one of Musk's children that did testimony for a full day, Siobhan Zillis. And
Wow.
yeah, so it's.
I can't wait for the miniseries.
Yeah, I know. It's like watching a TV show.
Oh, and who are you rooting for in Elon Musk versus Sam Altman?
Oh man, I'm not rooting for either one of them. Yeah, I think I find Musk's line more offensive just because he's just so blatant about it.
Yes.
And it is enjoyable to read the transcripts or to read like live blogging or read articles about how he's squirming on stage. I do think that him talking about how he wanted it to be a nonprofit is kind of an example of like that being in his material interest at that moment to say that. But really, I mean, it's kind of like words and actions. His actions, as you said, his AI company is not nonprofit, right?
Right.
So that's not what so he's not really interested in that. He's not really, I don't think he really thinks that AI is going to save the world or destroy the world. It's just that these are the things that he's saying because they can help to get investors interested in his product and get people to pick it up and use it more. So that's the kind of the normal veil of like illusion that he puts out there.
Okay, well, speaking of amusing legal cases, Eoin, you are the author of the book Owned: How Tech Billionaires on the Right Bought the Loudest Voices on the Left. And this book of yours, which came out last year,
Yeah, last February, yep.
it prompted a lawsuit against you from my friend and colleague, Matt Taibbi,
Yes.
who sued you. Talk to us about this case, and there's recently been a really important development.
Yeah, so Matt sued me on the basis that it's kind of a little hard to follow. There have been a few amended complaints. His lawyer has done some interesting work on it. But essentially, he has said that the cover of the book implies that there was a financial relationship as opposed to just being rhetorical hyperbola. And I think at one point he said, because I said that he cashed in his legitimacy, that meant that he was cashing in for money, which in context is clearly not what's going on. Our lawyers, he sued me and Hachette, my publisher.
Your publisher, yeah.
Yeah, so they had A-plus lawyers who deconstruct. I mean, all the stuff is up online on Court Listener. The back and forth I find pretty amusing and interesting. The judge just threw it out. They granted the motion to dismiss, so he can appeal it, but he can't replete it. So that's the development so far.
And it's great publicity for the book.
It's great publicity for the book, yeah, for sure.
Well, part of your critique of Matt is his reporting of the Twitter files. Let's talk about it. Dara, I'll start with you. Did you see anything in the Twitter files that you think was in the public interest? What did you make of that whole thing?
Well, the files themselves were, to me, and I didn't cover it nearly as much as you did, but were really haphazard and unorganized. So,
Sorry, just to back up. This
yeah.
is Elon Musk, when he bought Twitter X, basically opened up the company's files from before when he took over, and he selected a group of journalists, including Matt Taibbi, to cover them. So that's
Right, and Barry Weiss.
Yeah.
And he was alleging that Twitter was too woke when it was run by the former owners.
Elon was, yeah.
Yeah, Elon was. And so he was alleging that in the Twitter files, there would be these bombshells of wokeness. And that didn't really happen. I mean, I think both Barry Weiss and Matt Taibbi said they found these bombshells, and they'd go to Twitter and do this kind of suspenseful, we found this and this, like these Twitter threads. But when I looked at the files, and I didn't report on it too extensively, but I did work with a data reporter. This was back when I was with an small investigative nonprofit journalism group called The Markup. There was files missing, they were unorganized, they seemed cherry-picked, and they it was really hard to actually just organize them and figure out anything. And so we ended up, the organization I work for, we didn't cover it at all because it seemed like such a mess and very cherry-picked.
Yeah, it was heavily curated. I mean, this was Musk had an agenda that he wanted to get out there, and he offered access to the files, but the access was controlled. I think I can't remember which journalist it was. It may have been Li Fang, who was then at The Intercept, wrote about part of the process and that there was a company attorney there. You had to ask for things. They weren't just giving you unfettered access. And so, I mean, you could ask for whatever you wanted. I'm not sure exactly how like that worked. Maybe it sounds like maybe they didn't give you exactly everything, but they were presented as this big bombshell report of what happens, you know, between Twitter and the government. I don't think that's really what it showed. Now, I do think it is in the public interest to reveal the workings of a company with as much power over the public discourse as Twitter. I think that the overall newsworthiness of the documents that we saw that were reported out, it exists. I just don't think that it was like a Edward Snowden NSA leaks level story,
Sure.
which is how it was presented.
Yeah.
And I think that the fact that they were so heavily curated and that wasn't exactly clear from the beginning also kind of damages the credibility of that reporting. But if you're going to ask if the question is like, are the Twitter, is it in the public, just straight up, is it in the public interest for the public to have access to seeing how one of the largest, most powerful platforms in the world operates within itself and with respect to governments? I think that's overwhelmingly in the public interest. It should be out there.
I mean, I have a personal stake in this question because I'm in the Twitter files because they showed that the FBI, acting on behalf of Ukrainian intelligence, asked Twitter to censor my account because I was critical of certain aspects of the Ukraine proxy war, of the U.S. role there. So, you know, personally, I think there was something in there in the public interest, but it does raise a profound question. Is Elon Musk capable of doing anything in the public interest? And I understand, I understand why there's a lot of skepticism. Silicon Valley and progressive politics, was there ever a relationship between the two, and like what's happened to that?
I mean, I would say yes. And just to get back to the Twitter files a little bit, the Twitter files came right after the Facebook files, which really did reveal a lot of the inner workings of the company and how their algorithms work, how they target specific groups and age ranges. So, and that was a really revelatory batch of documents that was a whistleblower had taken. And so I think it did seem to me that Elon Musk was trying to capitalize on that, like the enormity of the Facebook files. But yeah, you know, so Facebook has always been this, you know, up until January 2025, this like progressive bastion, and they had so many like DEI efforts and open schools for low-income kids. They had so much that they were doing, and now it's all gone, which I think is really telling in that a lot of these tech companies kind of blow with the wind and it's opportunistic. But at the time, I'd say when I was reporting on those companies at time and like their initiatives to do good, it didn't seem insincere to me, and I think a lot of the employees working on it were sincere in that they wanted to make things better within these tech companies. But yeah, it's been really shocking to me to see the huge changes in all the top tech companies since Trump was inaugurated.
Let me ask you, especially about Mark Zuckerberg. I mean, what has his shift been like, and have you been surprised by it?
I have. You know, his nickname now is MAGA Mark. He's into MMA, and you know, he was going to do the cage fight with Elon Musk supposedly, and that was before he became MAGA Mark. And but I did a big story right when they dropped all their DEI programs and they dropped their trust and safety teams right after Trump was inaugurated. He was at Trump's inauguration. And talked to former employees, and they they sent me videos of him at the LGBTQ parades, and he was like very much all in. He had Sheryl Sandberg, but within the companies, within the employees who were working with him at that time, they still even had a little skepticism about his sincerity.
And what might be his interest in going so MAGA? Is it the fear of his company being broken up, or?
I mean, I think it's financial interest with it, and the Trump presidency. Trump has shown that he will be a friend to these companies and protect them from regulations, protect them from lawsuits, antitrust lawsuits. It's very ironic because Trump was the one under his first presidency who brought the antitrust lawsuit to break up Facebook and Instagram. But that's been thrown out, so.
Oh, and do you have any favorite tech overlords who you think we should be particularly aware of?
Well, I think just to go off, I think Zuckerberg is probably like the most transparent with this, in that what he's doing is just completely about his own interests. But I feel that all of them are now rejecting these initiatives because of who's in power. I don't think there's any real ideological commitment that would supersede their financial interests as far as this goes. Like if things flipped around the other way, I think that they would start to do that again. But I think that really the Silicon Valley staff and employees have, the workers have always been kind of much more on the progressive side. And the billionaires who are in charge have either been generally apolitical or right-wing. They're captains of industry. There's nothing unique about them in that, right? They're like almost anyone who's in charge of any kind of powerful industry or sector of the economy. So they are probably more ideologically close to Trump and Trumpism, and probably always have been. I mean, there's reporting going back from, as we were talking about earlier, about Peter Thiel in the back there, but also like Elon Musk back, like 20, 30 years ago was saying all kinds of crazy stuff that it just wasn't really being reported on. So I think that there is an ideological kinship that they feel for the right, and so what's happening now is an expression of that. But if again, if tomorrow things changed and they were expected to reinstitute all these DEI policies, it would be no question. I mean, they might complain about it, they might tweet about it, they might write. Mark Andreessen might write like another manifesto or something about it, but ultimately they would do it because it's in their financial interests.
Well, there's a saying going around now, especially in the aftermath of Zohran Mamdani winning in New York City, that woke is back.
Yes.
So you're saying that if woke is truly back, then we might see Mark Zuckerberg return to woke glory.
I mean, his employees would say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they very much, when I was doing that story in January 2025, they very much said he like flowed with the wind, whatever was in his, it's all opportunism. Yeah.
Yep.
The term techno-fascism, I hear it now being said increasingly more. I mean, do you guys think that that's a fair term? Should we fear something called techno-fascism?
I think there's something to be said about it. These companies are the most powerful companies on earth. They have so much control over our lives that we don't even know about. And with the advent of AI, I think that's going to be accelerated. And so we are at the whims of these companies. And what they decide to do and how they act could, I think, could be in a fascist-like manner.
I think that if left unchecked, I think that is where they would want to eventually go. I'm sure that if you asked any of these people individually, they would say no. That's not necessarily. They might not, or might not even see that as like fascism itself. But if they are continually like unchecked and there's no control over their power, and there are no consequences for anything, then I think that you would see that kind of naturally happen. Whether or not it is the actual ultimate goal or something that they want to happen, or if it's just kind of a natural evolution of their control over this sector and this part of the economy, which is massive, right? But also their connection to Trump and the White House and basically the regulatory state just kind of throwing its hands up in the air and saying, do whatever you want. The more that there are kind of a consequence-free experience for them, the further they're going to go. And I think you see it with companies that are doing things with surveillance, with missile targeting, things like that, with no regard for public opinion, like you would have had, I think, even maybe 2 or 3 years ago, or even in like Trump's first term as well. You might have seen some pushback on that. Now it's muted. Again, there's just so much going on with the news cycle. But I do think that it's, I don't know if I would say it's like a necessarily like an ideological goal that they're thinking of in their heads, but I think it's something that could just end up happening and that they would definitely embrace.
I mean, the fact that AI was likely used in school in Manab, Iran.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Has that led to any backlash, any sort of attempt at serious oversight regulation?
I mean, it's barely been a subject of the kind of intense reporting that you would expect, right? And that kind of feels like a separate question about like the media and a separate discussion about the media and priorities. But I think overall you could say that like that hasn't really been reported. It was also like apparently used in Gaza for a lot of targeting as well. There was a big report actually out about that, but it hasn't really been followed up on, and at least not in the way that I would like it to be. So I think that when Overton window is such a played out cliche, right? But the thing is that if you continually push things and there isn't like a substantial pushback, or it just kind of dissipates and like, but then kind of becomes part of how we understand how these systems and companies work, then the next step is you just push it a little further, and you just push it a little further and further. And I really think that the missile targeting and the surveillance stuff is just so disturbing that it's becoming normalized this quickly. And I think that that is one of the more urgent examples of this, but it is just one example of many of how things are getting pushed and pushed forward on that.
Yeah, and on the missile targeting, a lot of it's been Anthropic, which has been broadcast as the safe AI company. And so if the Anthropic's technology is what has been predominantly used so far in these wars, and they're the ones that Trump is lambasting, for being overly cautious. To me, that's really chilling.
Well, talk to us about that, because they had a showdown recently, Anthropic and Pete Hegseth. What was that about, and did Anthropic back down in the end?
Well, so it was about a contract that they were doing for Anthropic to provide technology for the war in Iran, and there was a couple of red lines that Anthropic wouldn't cross, which included targeting civilians and using their technology for mass surveillance. And so there was this big, huge blow up. There was back and forth, deadlines, all this stuff with Trump and Hegseth. And Anthropic didn't back down. And then all these other AI companies came on and said they were with Anthropic, and including Sam Altman and OpenAI. And just 12 hours later, Sam Altman announced that they were signing the deal with Trump. And with Anthropic, I'm not sure. I mean, I think they have kind of backed down, but in a cautious way.
I'm not 100% sure like where that's at right now, but I did just want to say one thing kind of going off that, which is that when they refused to do it and they didn't back down, it almost like kind of exposed the fact that the Defense Department, as far as its contracting, is just a complete paper tiger there, and that they couldn't actually push it. Now, I feel like if Altman hadn't signed that contract, things might have played out a little bit differently. But the reason I bring that up is that at any point they could just stop doing this, and there would really be no negligible. The consequences would be negligible, and they choose not to do it, and so that is. I don't want to take away their agency from them.
Yeah.
Are there any states out there that you think we can look to and say, hey, they're onto something here when it comes to regulation and accountability for AI and other intrusive tools of tech?
Well, the only state in the United States, are you talking about states or countries?
Either, any state level, whether it's local or national.
Yeah. So Colorado is the only one that's passed any regulations on AI, and it was the law is good in that it doesn't want AI to be used to discriminate against people. And I mean, the law hadn't even gone into law yet, and Elon Musk sued, saying it was a woke law, and which is new to me. And then Trump joined that lawsuit, I think just last week. So, but no other states have passed regulations yet, and even California, which is always flirting with regulations, like waters them down, and they never get fully passed. But there are a few states working on it, but the lobbying machine is very intense, and so I think that's a little bit what's happened in Colorado too.
How does that lobbying machine work?
Well, these companies just have armies of lobbyists where they'll talk to these lawmakers who actually don't know much about AI and convince them. And you see when Trump talks about AI regulations, he's like, we don't want to patchwork quilt, which is like classic lobbying language. And so but they're scared that like one state does it and then the others will start to follow. So it's interesting.
Yeah, the state that I live in, the state of Maine, passed a data center moratorium, only for like large ones as well, not a blanket ban. It passed through the state legislature and the governor vetoed it, ostensibly for some small project, but I believe she probably would have vetoed it, found a reason to do it, no matter what. So there are these challenges. There is some reporting that there was some lobbying money at least promised to her for her Senate run, that she ultimately didn't take them up on that. But I think that there are attempts, but without a larger regulatory framework being put in place, it's going to be very hard to do that on the federal level. And even some laws that we've seen proposed, like Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez proposed this data center moratorium, which I think is directionally correct. Like that's a good way to like leveraging infrastructure in order to get policy changes that you want is great, but then what they're asking for is very vague, and I don't really understand like where they're going with it. And I read through the law, and they're using all of these kind of like outlandish promises that CEOs have made about the power of AI as an example of like why they need to do this. And I feel like in order to properly regulate it and to control it, you need to treat it as what it is, which is a technological tool. And I feel like that has been one thing that has been kind of missing in the conversation. I don't know if that's your read of it as well. But.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And the data center conversation is really interesting because there are lots of communities now calling for moratoriums, and so which will directly affect the growth of AI. Yeah.
We're going to wrap it there. Dara Kerr, tech reporter at The Guardian. Eoin Higgins, journalist, author of Owned, How Tech Billionaires on the Right Bought the Loudest Voices on the Left. Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Thanks.